Hey, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel for another video. So I was going through some of my old photos from a few years ago, and I wanted to share some of these photos with you to show you where I started and how I've evolved with my photography. But first, smash that like button, subscribe if you're new, I'll roll the intro and we'll get into it. So I've always been into photography, but I never pursued it out of not only fear of putting myself out there, but also because of some of the social circles that I had been a part of. And it wasn't until I decided my happiness was more important to me over people's perception of me. It was shortly after I finished editing my horror film Dollface Terror on Route 9 that I chose to give photography a real try. Problem was, it was right smack in the middle of the pandemic, which raised a bunch of challenges all on its own. But I made the decision to make an attempt to make myself happy for once instead of living for everyone else. So I purchased a brand new Canon 80D and I was off and running. Well, sort of. I knew if I was gonna do this, I wanted to do it right. I wanted to be like some of the photographers that I admired growing up, like Annie Leibovitz and Richard Avedon. But I also wanted to have a similar mindset to that of Van Gogh, meaning there were no limits. And there's beauty in everything, including a dirty pair of shoes sitting in the corner. I also have been watching a lot of YouTube during this time and discovered Gary Gough, Peter Mckinnon, Jared Polin, and a few others. And by watching their videos, I learned how to use my camera, even before I had it in my hands. So I spent every minute that I had to spare learning about photography, learning how to shoot in RAW, using manual settings, and even some editing. Anyway, these are some of the photos from my very first year of photography, learning what I could, making tons of mistakes, and trying to mimic what I saw done on YouTube. So I started my photo journey attempting street photography. So these shots here were from my very first street photography session. So starting off with the shots of this Ford Thunderbird, you can see that first and foremost, the edit leaves a lot to be desired. The first shot isn't actually in focus, and the other shots were a product of wanting shots with that blurry background. The same session, I came across a couple homeless guys singing while sitting on a bench near the street. Now, I wasn't very comfortable with just pointing my camera at people, so I dropped my camera low and used the rear screen to get the shot, which is why the photo was a bit out of focus. And the last one from this session is a shot of the back door of the most popular bar in town at that time, which ironically has been torn down since. I actually really like this shot, even today. The edit's a bit dark and contrasty, but I still dig it. So keeping with the mindset of no limitations, my next project was trying out some commercial product photos. And at the time, I thought these were really good. But looking back, it's just bad. The photo, in my opinion, is way too dark and way too brown with no real reason. I really don't know what I was trying to get across in this photo. I did a few more street sessions, and some of these sessions also included a few short treks out into the desert and even the local cemetery. The first shot is a sign that was put up demanding that the Nevada governor's office lift the restrictions related to what was happening in the world. Bad edit and composition, in my opinion. Then there were some random items I found laying around in the desert, like this rusted old padlock, some doll arms, and an old Mormon Bible. Out of these three shots, I honestly like the look of the doll arms. But I'm just weird like that though. The others are okay too, but nothing really jumps out about those shots. Then there were these two statues I came across in the cemetery. At the time, I felt like they gave the feeling of loneliness, which in turn is the feeling of being in a cemetery. Decent bokeh in the second one, lazy edit, but not my worst. Then I decided to try out shooting some landscapes and old buildings as well as weird signs and things that stood out to me. So these first two were out at Grimes Point, shot from inside a cave along the trail. Now if I'm being honest, I still kind of like these. However, the edit on the second, not so much. Next, I hit the Lahontan Dam Reservoir and the old abandoned brothel. The first photo to me is 100% failure. I can't find anything I like about it. The brothel, however, to me is much better, even though I've since revisited the brothel many times and created much better ones. Now the next three shots all have a very different feel. The first shot of this old car in someone's yard in Virginia City, Nevada has always been a shot that I go back and look at, and I'm not sure why. Some days I like it, and some days I really don't. Then there's this shot. Now the composition to me isn't very good, but what stands out to me is the drama in the sky as well as the shadows throughout the landscape. Then there's this. Yeah, that's a handicap sign with the number 1 missing from the dollar amount. I just found this one funny, which is why I took the shot. The edit though, not so good. So then I moved on to shooting commercial product shots again, just to see if I was any better, if I'd improved enough. The answer to that is yes and no. The first two shots of these old Pentax cameras I thought were pretty good. They were decently sharp, the colors were pretty good, and the edit was not bad, but it was still a bit dark. These next two shots of this watch are again pretty dark, but I can see now what I was actually going for, and I wasn't very far off. So these actually showed some promise. So around July 4th, our local government decided that they were going to allow our annual July 4th parade to happen, which turned out to be a terrible idea because of how many people got sick, but what can you do? So I masked up and I got some shots. Now these aren't actually bad. I mean, the compositions aren't bad and the edits give them kind of a vintage film look. So then it came time for me to try my hand at studio portraits. I ended up finding some studio gear locally for really cheap, so I grabbed it. And since I had it, I figured I'd use it. So I studied up on how to use light boxes and soft boxes and how to shape light and so on. Thank you, Gavin Hoey, for that one. And these are the results. Now, this first one, it was an idea that I had for a while, and I still really love this shot, but maybe it's because I'm biased and I think it makes me look pretty cool. But it was the next three shots that really floored me. So these are shots that I did for a friend so I could get some practice in, and being honest, the shots are awesome. I love the edits, I love the lighting, and to me, these are shots that could have been done in a professional studio. Yet they were done in my living room. Matter of fact, right where I'm sitting. Which, all of those lead to this last set of photos. These photos were all shot at the end of the year just before Christmas. So the first four shots were in Middlegate, Nevada, which lies along Highway 50. It's an extremely small township that consists of a restaurant and an RV park. But it's always busy due to it being a stop along the Pony Express. So the first shot, not so good. I knelt down in the middle of the road to get the mountains in the back and the long road to give off the feeling of Highway 50, which is known as the loneliest road in America. Now the next two shots were shot inside Middlegate Station, which is the restaurant. The shots are kind of meh. They're pretty dark, and I used that brown edit, which serves no real purpose to these shots. And the last one from Middlegate, I thought was a cool shot because it's a working light with an icicle on it. But it didn't turn out the way that I saw it in my head, and the edit is just way too blue. Quickly, the last three are from the local Christmas tree lighting we have every year. The first shot is this couple that were just walking around, and I like their look. And with that said, I really like the photo as well. The next shot was me just playing around with framing. I framed this bar sign with some of the Christmas lights that were loosely hanging from the giant tree. Not bad, but not great either. So that brings us to the very last shot I did in my very first year of photography. This long shot of the lit up Christmas tree with cars driving by in both directions. Now, this is probably one of my favorites for that first year, and mainly because it's something that I took the time to plan. I thought about the shot for weeks, and when I finally went out to get it, I was more than satisfied with it. Even today, I think it's a really decent shot. So there you have it, guys, my personal recap of my very first year of photography. Damn, did I suck. What do you guys think? Should I do a year 2 and a year 3 and so on? Let me know down in the comments. Don't forget to like the video for the algorithm, subscribe if you're new, and click the bell so you never miss out on the good stuff. Also, check out my website, jeff-gresham.com for photo prints as well as my upcoming Lightroom presets. And until next time, get out and shoot, and I'll see you in the next video.